Hi, this is Alan Shay, and I'm here on Our Society here in Pasadena. We're looking at a great event today. We're having a fundraiser for Bobby Shriver. He's running for county supervisor, and he's kicking off his campaign right here in Pasadena. So stay tuned and let's watch today's show. We're going to get some great interviews. It should be some very good people here to get a sense of Bobby Shriver's first run in politics. So why don't you join us? And stay tuned.
I love LA. I came here, I met my wife. I wanted to do something important here. And when I saw this job open, I thought, that's it. Poor people are really getting a ragged act. The county really is an agency for poor people and for people who need the services and for people who need health care, who don't get it in the ordinary system because of insurance reimbursement or whatever it may be. And I just felt, as I'm sure many of you do, that as a values-based family that had suffered in our own culture of our family, discrimination against the Irish. The Irish need not apply. The Irish aren't good enough. We were brought up this way. It's hard for many people to believe because after all, everybody thinks, well, you're the Kennedys, for God's sake. But we were brought up as, hey, people are prejudiced against you. You got to work harder. You got to be smarter. You got to be tougher, and you got to fight for people who are being bullied by the system. And I felt the more I learned about the county, the more I felt that people were being bullied by the system, particularly people with mental illness. And it just made my blood boil, I have to tell you. And I just couldn't face the idea that soldiers who were 27, 28 years old were burned to death in a dumpster in West LA because they get whacked, light a cigarette, and they burn to death. Instead of being in a mental health care facility, on the property, or in some form of diversion where they didn't get that sick when they got out of the service. So that's why I ran. There are many other issues. The county runs the water system. We need to attract capital. We're losing business constantly in this area. Toyota's left town. Nissan and Honda and Nagata are right behind them. The Boeing facility in Long Beach is shut down. We need to revivify this area as a place to come invest, make money, and create stuff. And that's why I'm running. And that's why I'm grateful for your support. And I always end by saying something I never thought I'd say. Like my Facebook page. The new world. The new world. First time I said it, I didn't realize it was a joke. But everybody laughed, just like you all just did. But the truth is, honestly, the communication, if you like those pages and then you share the stuff that we have on there to share, the ads we've made about mental illness and homelessness and about job creation, if you share that with your friends, that's the modern politics. People trust that. They trust it when they hear from their friends. They don't trust it when they're told that by an ad or in some other way. So we have a great senior commission in the city of Santa Monica. I know you're on the senior commission in the city of Pasadena, and the county has a senior commission. So I'm going to get your card and find out what you think the county should be doing about it. I think it's an outrageous thing. What did you say, 75% of the wealth of the country is?
70% of the wealth in the country is invested in 65 people 65 years in age older.
Right, so there are obvious targets for
That's why they're the predators.
malfeasance. So yeah, we need to bear down on that for sure. The other thing the county runs, I can't remember what I mentioned, is the sheriff's department. Which operates the jail, and who, by the way, when you talk to their union, are very happy to have the mentally ill people taken out of the jail because 19 of them have been indicted by the feds for mistreating mentally ill patients in there. And so my position has been that mentally ill people should be handled by psychiatric social workers and mental illness people and not by police officers. And police officers are totally in favor of that because they don't have the training. A jail is not the right setting, and they continue to make mistakes for which they can be indicted. So this is I'm not just saying this because Patrick is here. This is a big issue in our community. We have been incarcerating these people for decades. We've learned a lot. We have the legislation, but now the community needs to come together, and you all need to vote for and finance candidates, not only me, but other candidates. And when you go to events like this that you put together with your brilliant, raise your hand and say, what is your position on mental illness? What are you going to do about the jail? And here's what I think you should do, because then politicians can feel that energy. They're like, wow, I went to the House and I got 3 questions on mental illness. Whoa, that's an issue. You know what I mean? That's important to communicate that. And as Patrick said very eloquently, everyone in everybody's family has had some exposure to mental illness. And we have to decide that we've changed the way we're going to treat folks like this. We're going to treat them in a medical setting. It's just essential.
Hi, this is Alan Shay, and we're here with our first guest of the day, and he's one of the most incredible candidates, I should say candidates, but one of the most incredible politicians that we've seen along the line of the Kennedys. So why don't you share with the viewers your name and what our hopes are for today with Bobby Shriver's fundraiser.
Thanks, Alan. Well, I'm here on behalf of my cousin, Bobby Shriver. My name is Patrick Kennedy. I had the honor of serving in the United States Congress for 16 years. Worked primarily on issues of mental health and substance use disorders, and was the author of the Mental Health Parity and Addiction Equity Act, which now goes into effect in July. Most health plans will be required come January of 2015 to implement mental health. So mental health has long been segregated from health care, and hence we have a crisis in this country amongst the severely mentally ill, and frankly all Americans are suffering because mental health is not incorporated into overall health. So obviously I love the fact that my cousin Bobby Shriver is running for supervisor. These supervisor roles are where the rubber meets the road. It's where the money is spent. And so what we do know about treatment of the mentally ill is that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And in Los Angeles County, the largest mental health institution is the jail. Sheriff Baca will readily tell you that he's runs the largest mental health institution, the LA County Jail. So we need more innovation in terms of early intervention, case management, supportive housing, and the like. And the supervisor role and Bobby's passion for this issue, like other members of my family, is fantastic. So I'm so excited that he's actually put himself up for office and is offering the voters an opportunity to support someone who cares about these issues. And of course I am here to cheer him on, not only because he's my cousin, which goes without saying, but because he's really the best candidate.
Right, and in my short term of knowing Bobby, I've known him for a little while, got to know him through the Hollywood connections and other projects he's been involved with. Very active person. But the thing that gets me excited, and I hope the viewers find this to be quite interesting, Bobby will become the first Kennedy relative here in Southern California to join the political machine that we have here to make sure that we continue to create a legacy here in California now.
Well, and my family has always done well here in California. Obviously, my uncle, President Kennedy, both Bobby and my uncle, got his nomination here in 1960, and then my uncle Robert Kennedy, before he was tragically assassinated, won California. And my father, Senator Edward Kennedy, won here in 1980. So my family's always felt well received, and Bobby is just fantastic, and I hope people have a chance to see that he's carrying that legacy forward.
Well, absolutely. Well, we certainly appreciate you stopping in, Patrick, to be the opening speaker and guest on our show today to pave a new road for raising funds and raising awareness of Bobby Shriver here in Southern California. Thank you.
Los Angeles County spends $26 billion of your money a year. Most of it is spent in health care, including $960 million in mental health care per year. And as Patrick just said, one of the most horrifying facts of our community here is that the LA County Jail, a single building in downtown, is the largest mental health care facility not only in America but in the world. There are 15 full-time pharmacists there medicating people. Today, tonight, that will happen. 2 weeks ago, the board introduced legislation to remodel the jail. The jail needs to be remodeled. But did they say we're going to take the mentally ill people and treat them in diversion or in the community? No. We're going to build a jail and keep the mentally ill people in the jail. Who did they hire to advise them of that? A jail construction company, not a mental illness group. And the jail construction company, surprise, surprise, said, let's build a really big jail. And that's what they voted to spend $2.1 billion of your money on 2 weeks ago. What is that evidence of? To me, lethargy. Most of these people have never been in a competitive race. One guy who's going to be turned down in 2 years will have been in office 38 years. There hasn't been a competitive election in this race, the 3rd district, the one I'm running in more than 20 years. And the only reason there is one now is because the voters approved term limits. If they hadn't approved term limits, Mr. Yaroslavsky, who's in office now, would have served another easy 10 years. So it's a unique thing for people in Los Angeles to be able to vote for a supervisor in a contested race. And that's really amazing, because guess how many supervisors there are? 5. So if you're one of them, how many votes do you need to get to pass your legislation? 2. Better than Congress, huh? That's part of the reason I'm running. You need to get 2 votes to get something done. And unlike Congress, if you get the 2 votes and pass the law, who gets to execute the law in Los Angeles County? You do. You're the president. So you're the president and the Congress. And just as a sidelight, if you don't like the way I executed the law and you want to appeal how I did it, who do you appeal to? Me. It's a weird system as a matter of law, but that's another reason why no one runs against these folks, because once they're in office, you don't want them mad at you. Right. So I got interested in this originally when I was serving on the Santa Monica City Council, which I was elected to in 2004, by the biggest margin in history, and re-elected in the second time by an even bigger margin. There's a very famous line in our family from my grandfather who spoke to President Kennedy about a money issue, and he said, I want you to win, but I'll be damned if I'll pay for a landslide. I got a landslide in Santa Monica, so I always like to remind your dad of that. He didn't like it. We were Mayor of Boston, Senator, President of the United States, and now Santa Monica City Council. He got the better of me on that one. I found that the West LA VA, which some of you may know are from that side of town, is the biggest VA, Bel Air people, the biggest VA facility in America, the biggest, 400 acres, not one bed constructed there in the last 25 years for a vet who's suffering from mental illness. They have empty buildings that were built for people who had mental illness. They've been empty for 35 years. So I thought that would be an easy thing. I worked with President Bush on matters related to AIDS in Africa. We actually got about 7 million people medicines in Africa. President Bush signed that legislation. It's called PEPFAR. That's also, I was showing someone earlier, my RED campaign, where we had t-shirts and other products like watches and so forth, that we wanted to get the private sector involved in the AIDS pandemic in Southern Africa. But I thought, I'll be able to talk to the Bush administration and get them to do it. Wrong. I couldn't get him to do it. I thought when President Obama was elected, I could get him to do it. Wrong. I couldn't get him to do it. And after 6 or 7 years of negotiating on that, I sued them with the ACLU and Munger Tolles, a great downtown firm, and we won the lawsuit. Took 2 years, and now there's beginning to be some change. 1 building is under development, and 2 more, we hope, if certain legislative changes are made, will be brought into development for private sector, nonprofit, homeless veterans, developers, and that is entirely a mental illness type of developer who builds the housing or rehabs the housing and on the first floor puts the psychiatric services. And I just want to say, thank you very much, I want to say that there isn't, for those ladies in the room, there is not 1 bed on that property for a woman vet. And women have been in combat now in these wars. And they have experienced PTSD in different ways than men do. And they need mental health services in different ways than men do. And they have not built, on the biggest VA facility in America, they have not built 1 bed for a woman vet suffering from mental illness. That is a sign that we need to shake things up. You bet. We need to make some moves.
What do you bring from your historic work with Special Olympics that would apply to this new job you hope to acquire?
Historic work with Special Olympics. Well, really my work was in raising money and making records. So I know Clarence Avon, I bring back.
That's pretty good.
I'm saying. You think I'm kidding?
I gave you Claire.
I know Nicole Avon.
Jesus.
That's even better.
I would say that my mom, who ran that for many years, was a very she was a very good chief executive, I would say, because if you told her that you were going to do something, she left you alone. The great question always was, are you on it? And God forbid that you said you were on it, and it didn't happen. That was bad. So when I said to her, Mom, I'm going to raise you $1 million here, and I, have the right, so to speak, to go work on that. No money, but just, I'm going to work on this project now. I'm going to spend some time on it. I was working with Jim Wolfenson in New York. I did not ask him, even though he was paying me. So she said, yeah, go ahead. If you need me, call me. So I like that management model. It's very important to hire smart people and to attract smart people. And I think, I hate to say this because it sounds arrogant, I think smart people want to work for smart people. So I think if I'm elected, I'll do well at attracting staff. And Patrick's dad was legendary. The Kennedy staff, for years, was always the best staff in the Senate, probably the best staff in the Congress. So I think, getting really good people. My district has 2.1 million people in it. So it's twice the size of a congressional district. The whole county has 10.2 million people. The county is the 18th biggest economy in the world. So this is a big place. So as a single individual to represent all those people, pretty tough. But if you have a great staff, I'm hoping, and my mom, I try to follow my mom's model.
Ready to go. This is Alan Shay, and I'm here with another guest. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. I'm Thomas Carter. How you doing?
And why don't you share with the viewers what your feedback was on the candidate's speech tonight?
Well, Bobby Shriver's dynamic, but he's also very down to earth. He's someone that'll approach you with his fist like that, just to say what's up, as opposed to a handshake. So I always like that. But he was hitting home some really good points that I think that people in the Los Angeles area need to really pay attention to.
So have you followed his record and his politics for a while, or are you just learning about Mr. Shriver?
His and the family's, and I've known something about them for quite a while.
Okay, so why don't you share with our viewers, this is Our Society show here in Pasadena and on AT&T U-verse. Why don't you share with them your background and what brought you here today?
Okay, well, I've got a professional master's degree in strategic public relations, and so I do everything. I'm involved with everything from political campaigns management to any other venues, booking venues, as well as anything from brand and image management, reputation and damage control, and that's the reason why I'm here today is to pass out cards and network. So to be honest with you, that's it.
Well, that's a good thing. And speaking of that, if you have one of your cards, I'd love to have it,
Sure.
so we can keep you abreast of the developments that go on here in Pasadena and invite you to other events that I think might be of interest to you.
Okay, great. Let me find my card.
Okay. And as you can see on our show, we try and make sure that the community is heavily involved. And here with this particular event, everybody's mingling. So we'd like to thank you for giving us your time.
No problem, no problem. Thanks. Take care.
I wanted to say in closing, why don't you share with your constituents here what are we going to do about the local county issues regarding police safety, sheriff issues that's going on, cleaning up some of the issues in our jail system, and getting that in shape, because it's more of a county supervisor.
100%. And we need the Citizens Oversight Commission, right? So there's a proposal to have a Citizens Oversight Commission of the sheriff, and some of the supervisors are against it. I'm for it. Make that real simple. We need to have sunlight and information. We need the press to know what's happening. Police officers need to be respected, but they also need to know if there's an issue, the public has a right to know. Part of the reason Lee Baca let the system get out of hand is because he lost touch, really, with what was going on. And he would have benefited, as all public officials and Americans do, by the press scrutiny that would have come had there been a Citizens Oversight Commission. So I always am in favor of more press, more sunlight. Whatever you're going to do, be ready to read it in the newspaper, and then people tend not to do crazy things.
Yeah,
Yes?
you talked a lot about the homeless population in Los Angeles. Another issue is homeless youth, and most of, as you probably know, most of homeless youth in Los Angeles, they're either youth of products of a broken foster care system, LGBT, or youth of color. How do you plan on maybe addressing that?
That's a really good question. And the right answer is to improve, in my opinion, the right answer is to improve the foster care system. It's very hard to hire foster parents now in the county. They've suffered in prestige, they don't get paid enough, and particularly for teens, it's almost impossible to get a placement. And if you have a teen who can't get a placement in a foster home and is cycling through the system, there's no doubt whatsoever that they'll end up in the criminal justice system or worse. And it costs a tremendous amount of money, and there are mental illness issues in that area where people aren't getting any kind of treatment. In schools right now, the county, for example, provides all the mental health care money, does not put mental health care counseling in high schools. And we put it in the center, and we invite people who have a problem, come to the center. Bad idea. You need to put it in the high school and even in the middle school, because if the kid's having problems, guess what? The parents may be having some problems. So they need to be seen in an environment that has no stigma attached to it. It's a school, and we can see you on an ordinary basis. So I would like to put the mental health care people into the middle school and high school system. I would like to improve the foster care system by raising the pay of foster parents and by improving the way youth are treated while they're in there. And then when people are emancipated and they go out into the world to develop a structure, there are a couple of pretty good models for this that LA has not done, where they get a support structure like all of us have when we got out at 18, when we got out of high school. You know, we had buddies, we had parents, we had our grandparents, whatever it was, that supported us as we were trying to roll out. The idea, which is the current idea, that somebody gets out of foster care at 18 and is just out there in the world alone, that dog won't hunt. You know, that's a prescription for bad stuff. But I welcome the advocacy of young people on that topic, because you're a youngster, and here you are asking that question. That's the first time I've been asked that question. You know, that's the first time, and I have done many events. So attending events, making that question something that candidates have to respond to, really good service. Thank you.
Hi, this is Alan Shay, and we're back with Bobby Shriver. A great speech.
Thank you.
And I'm sure the candidates are going to be on arms about you now, Bobby.
They're going to be on arms about me?
Oh, yeah.
Why will they be?
Because that means you're coming in with some heavy artillery.
Well, my cousin Patrick has been a real leader in mental illness, and I'm thrilled that he's here. He made mental health parity work,
right.
And I hope to follow in his footsteps at the county and make mental illness issues work here.
Well, good. Well, we certainly hope to extend whatever help we can here in Pasadena. Our society here and our viewers are going to certainly look forward to seeing how effective you're going to be to help us out here in LA County, because we need it.
I'm only going to be as effective as your viewers can help me make things happen, because no person works alone. We all have to be part of the team. So I'm hoping that you and your viewers will stay in touch with me once I'm elected.
Well, we're going to make sure that viewers, you heard what he said. Let's get on board. Make sure you get in office.
No, all kidding aside, public opinion is so important in making political change. Movements make change, not elected officials. So we need a movement on mental illness to treat people in a good way. Somebody's just hitting me while I'm on television.
Okay.
You know.
Well. With that said, that shows you that we're live.
Hitting me over here.
Right.
Yeah,
it shows you that we're live. We're gonna let Mr. Shriver finish mingling with the other guests. We appreciate you giving us a few minutes. Thank you very much. And we look forward to seeing you after the election.
I hope so. Yes, sir. Thanks so much.
This is Alan Shay with Our Society. So hopefully you've heard from Bobby Shriver, and as you can see, he certainly have a plan of action as hopefully the new elected supervisor here in LA County.